What screams I am not the badass I pretend to be. You don't want to see me mad. Unless your name is Bruce Banner. STFU. Boyfriend, you don't want to see me mad. Because there's a decent chance I'll just start ugly crying and it'll get really awkward for everyone. Frick, I hate that I'm a frustrated crier. People are always like, oh shoot, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make you cry, and I'm sitting there like, no motherfricker, I am pissed, I wanna fight. Demanding respect, but giving none to anyone, or doing nothing to earn any respect, yet demand it. I would have enlisted and probably made special forces, but I would have punched a drill sergeant if they had gotten in my face. Sure, but yeah, cause they always trust the guy who can't control himself or follow orders to the highest ranks of the military, and they give them the biggest guns too. Worked with a guy like that. I'd brush him off most times, but if anyone ever tried to call him on his bullshit, he was quick to threaten to call the cops. Claiming to be crazy like it's something to aspire to. In this context, it just means abandoning tact and acting like an a-hole to feel like a badass. Edited to add, I'm not referring to people with legitimate illnesses. I'm referring to people who think acting like an a-hole makes them look tough. Uploading video of yourself saying how badass you are. Project Badass was pretty badass though. Aggressive responses to non-aggressive situations. Nobody who's really about that life wants to do things to people. Do you know who I am? Or whose son, daughter I am kind of people? Do you know who I am? Please tell me, because I do not. I feel very lost in life. I thought about going into flight attending years ago. I read a book written by a flight attendant, and her crew had come up with a response to the "Do you know who I am?" crowd. They'd immediately ask, "Oh dear, do you not know who you are? Does anyone recognize this person?" They don't know who they are. Don't worry, ma'am, sir. We are calling 911 for you. Quotation mark. Saying I'm a psychopath. On the same note, having a profile picture of the Joker. Following those Joker quotes pages that nave nothing ever said by any version of the Joker ever. Telling people how badass you are. Continually requesting a fight, but never actually starting the fight. I've seen lots of these. Two men, usually having been drinking, standing about 30 feet from each other, gesturing to each other with arms out saying, come on, I'll frick you up, etc. for 5 minutes. It's like you're both not fooling anyone. Just give it up and go get another beer. There's a South Park episode that nails this. The biggest indicator that you are not a badass is telling me you are a badass. If you have to tell me how important you are not terribly important. Game of Thrones. Joffrey, I am the king. Tywin Lannister, any king who says I am the king is no true king. Spousal and child abuse. Anyone who gives themselves a tough-sounding nickname, they are to be earned, not self-imposed. I met this one guy amongst a group of mutual friends. Everyone called him Beef. I was expecting a super huge douchebag, but he introduced himself as his actual name, and when I asked him about the nickname, he just kind of shrugged. Super cool guy, and introduced me to his sister. Nicknames are a funny thing. I went to high school with a guy named Beef. We called him that because his last name was LaBeouf and it sounds similar. He was a small guy and really friendly. Do you know those people who disrespect teachers, janitors, and other people who work just to make them able to not being fricked in the ass by life? That screams it out loud. You're not badass. You're disrespectful and ignorant. I went to lunch with a friend and a friend of his. The waiter was a little slow in bringing us our drinks and food because it was busy. So when our bills came, instead of leaving an actual tip, the other guy wrote something snarky as his tip. I was really embarrassed and asked if he could refrain from doing that. He refused and then basically called me a wuss. I left a bigger tip on my bill to compensate and never wanted to be associated with that guy ever again. You're a real badass now, buddy. Punching down on a retail worker who has to be at least polite to you to keep her job. Also those shoot heels that make a mess on purpose for wait janitorial staff, and then say, hey, it's job security. No, you pickle Danas. We don't need your job security. We have plenty to do every day. You're just a self-centered shoot wrinkle that doesn't have enough human DNA left to generate the smallest fraction of empathy. I'm prior enlisted in the Marines and I'm happy I was in. But now that I'm out, that time has passed. I can't stand people that were in, and it's their entire identity after they get out. All clothes are military stuff. Vehicles covered in military decals. All they talk about is when they were in, and so on. For anyone that wasn't in, the easiest way to tell someone that was in the military, but weren't in any kind of real combat situations, is if they were and do all that crap. I knew a guy who didn't even make it to boot camp that did all that shoot. He broke his leg or something like a week before shipping off to boot camp, and I think they ended up just dismissing him completely or something to that effect. Didn't matter though, his whole personality revolved around being a Marine. You know, my brother-in-law! Any reference to oneself as Alpha. I saw a massively lifted truck with the words Alpha as frick stamped across a windshield the other day. Does that count? It might as well said, I'm afraid of everything. Those people are the human equivalent of porcupines frilling their quills at everything that walks by. Picking on that one friend in the group around everyone and then acting like an offended little itch when they even try to joke back with them. Trying to start a fight with just about anyone that gives them a dirty look. Buying a giant pickup truck that they need to climb into to just get in. And never even use the bed of the truck for its purpose. And finally, screaming, yelling at anyone who disagrees with them, no matter how big or small the subject matter is. Inside me is a wolf. Mess with me or my pack and I'll show my fangs, or any similar cringy edgy quote about being an animal. The recommended number of wolves inside you is 0. Alpha males losing their shoot when their self-image is even remotely challenged in any way. I'm an alpha for sure, but in the video game sense, where I'm an early release model with a frick ton of issues. Alpha male 2042. Guy at a Christmas party told me he could easily drink heavily and drive safely if he just concentrates. Half an hour later he passes out and falls on the Christmas tree. He lost concentration, dude? Damn. Anybody who brags about drinking like it's a skill. Unless you're 4 years old and you've just mastered the sippy cup, nobody wants to hear about how good you are at drinking. Joker profile pic. Punisher bumper sticker. Semi-related, but there are some couples I know who I just want to grab by the shoulders and scream. Harley Quinn and the Joker are not relationship goals. Goddamn it. Claiming you are an alpha male. If you have to tell people you are a natural leader, you probably aren't one. It's not how human beings work anyway. Authority and competency are contextual, and worthwhile leaders, real leaders, recognize that. Cooperation and pooling our talents and resources are how human beings got to where we are. If you feel like you're always the alpha in the room, then you need to find a new room. Someone who might be a good natural leader in an emergency situation might not be the best leader in a classroom educational setting. You're right about it being very contextual. I find people who focus on creating solutions for problems are the people I respect the most. People who waste time blaming someone else for the problem or bragging about how well they could handle a situation are just building themselves up. When I get mad, I black out and lose control. Okay, buddy. That's called a temper tantrum, Jimmy. Now go to your room. Bragging about not having control of your own body is cringe. Getting your ass beat in a fight you provoked. I had a neighbor who was a decent guy when sober, but a raging alcoholic at night. He was really fit and worked out and had a good job, but could be such a toxic dude, bro. After a night where we both stayed up late after our so's fell asleep, he told me how he was depressed and would injure himself on purpose. He wouldn't tell anyone but me, because I have visible scars from my past struggle with self-injury. It was in the same conversation he told me he picks fights with super buff strangers so he can lose on purpose. I hope he's doing okay. This isn't uncommon. Self-harm can manifest in many ways other than cutting, heavy drinking itself to lose control, risky sexual behavior, and picking fights to get other people to harm you are all possible manifestations. Barbed wire tattoos. That's the third step in looking like a douchebag. What's the first two? People who brag. You can boast about anything if it's all you have. Maybe the less you have, the more you are required to boast. John Steinbeck. People who boast about their IQ are losers. Stephen Hawking. Fancy car. No money in bank account. Oh my god, my boy did this. 1,200/M4 BMW and was flat broke and in debt within 2 years. But he sure felt cool pulling up to stoplights in it. Holy crap, I have terrible financial sense and went in way too much on a car. At the time I bought it, I was trying to figure out if I could afford $300 a month for the loan and insurance, and I was well above the poverty line at the time. I can't imagine spending $1,200 a month on a car before insurance unless I had some serious frick money. My tiny dogs. Rolling coal. I don't have a problem with you rolling coal if that's fun to you. I just ask that you do it in your garage. Comedian whose name I can't remember. Truck nuts. If they are on a Prius, I would give that person props. Post Bible quotes online about how you're being tested. For example, my aunt, who has never had a job, has barely ever left her hometown, has posted this quote. The devil whispered in my ear, "You are not strong enough to withstand the storm." Today, I whispered in the devil's ear, "I am the storm," with a puppy dog face. When her previous visible post was about traffic. That's, not a Bible quote. Holy Bible. New Goop translation.